You see? I see what my father came in the station. My father, it's an Italian person, football, very, sorry, like a religion, that's what I want to say.
So you looked.
Yeah, but I'm at home and they prepared for me a risotto ai funghi that my parents take the mushroom. They go to the mountain and they take it, so they prepare it. And then I need to be tired, but it was good. And my second tip is about football because I am Italian and I'm grow up with this, with my father, with my uncle, fratello, brother. Thank you. I'm working in the state.
Stadium.
For my study, hotels, you go to the people to stay here, you are okay. In the middle, you take food. And when I was in Italy, I don't like that very much. But now, I think there is a very collective energy and performative and design to choreography, the immagine coordinata, in the moment in the stadium with the...
Who's the call
What?
Who's the ball going to the...
The ball goes and you have very emulation collective and you make a graphic design because each years you have in Genoa or in Milano, Juve Milano, two squadron, two teams that is not agree in the same city. And Italian people have a lot of pictures, of tattoos, my family is my brother, so, and you are not with me because you don't have the same, but there is one day in the year, you are a very collective energy, and you make a choreography with your graphic design, with your paper, and you make a world, and it's you with your body, you create a world with the other people, so it's very...
So this we have in prostration, we have in Toromachi, we have in theater also, in yoga session. But this probably a little bit another scale, is it? I think it's interesting to look this differences of...
But I think in the theater, in yoga, I think that football, it's more popular among
The same if you think of the basket in the USA is the same.
Yeah, but it's just, I think, I also one of my ex-boyfriend was one of the chief of the hooligans in my city. So this is like intimate confession, okay? So he was a philosopher, he's still a philosopher. So an anthropologist, so I got really fascinated by these things. And also, I remember like my professor, when I started to think about PhD, I said like, maybe I expect, because I really obsessed about like informal typography in the public space actually. And so my thesis was about graffiti. But like the other option could have been also about like all these signs. It's not just like you like, because actually they think it's crazy. They meet twice a week organizing choreography with all these colors. And like you are just a pixel basically, and you move this way and you write words that are really meaningful to you because you are communicating to the other curva, as we call it, and it's crazy because I mean the idea that like the hooligan have to do this, doing that thing, using that kind of typography, I don't know, just like I feel so many conflicts and I
There's a lot of violence also.
There's a lot of violence.
It is a beautiful thing.
I think then they start to be interesting because the person who look has an action. But 90% or 99% of the person who look at a football match are just saying,
There is
I'm for hooligans also.
There is also a lot of violence.
It's the start of creativity,
But
of carnival.
Yeah.
Also, and this,
Yeah, but sometimes there are places in which there are, it is not a news, there is a lot of reaction to the difficulty of their life in the everyday. So there is a lot of, there's a lot of possibility, and it is not only that you describe it as a very beautiful, very interesting use of the body and use of the community, but there are a lot of aggressive single exposure for aggressive with the other, with the who is playing. There is a lot of terrible wars for the racism, for that. It is a place in which the aggressivity is very explosive.
it's a kind of relation. Also.
Yeah, it is a kind of relation, but it is not only a
Religion.
choreography.
You wanted to say religion, really, or relation?
Both.
Most of
Okay.
most of
Okay.
most because for a lot of people.
I think, if we,
But someone wanted to say
yeah,
something
after I
too.
have to go 5 minutes and
And then you can
This is
speak.
escapism.
if we try to do this talk about energy, I think we have to find out what different typologies of energy.
Yeah.
And then we
Also
can
the
also,
negative one.
no, and then we, negative, positive, and then we can have a vocabulary and we can say why at this place is a positive, is a energy who makes this and this, and how can be inside of you an energy who bring you in another situation. I think we don't have to cache a part of this energy.
Yeah.
That's my
And now you go and you don't feel what you
And I don't want to know anything. I like the answer.
I write
Exactly.
I just write comment.
This is a
Okay,
big form of respect.
Wow. I think it was very interesting to have all these different kind of experiences. And I think, and also a personal, if we think about non-conceptual mind, for example, which I think in all tradition, it is a possibility to integrate that perspective. Ayurveda for the word means ayus, and Veda means the knowing of the path. Like with the principles of life. So Varikva, how it's called traditional Tibetan medicine, would means only the balance of the element, nothing more. In Burn shamanic tradition, as I understood, but I'm just a little bit, there's just about energy, yeah. And I think this is one of the high knowledge I got to, to get in touch. And in this clear situation of connection of just the direction, north, south, east, west, central, combined with the color, and then the mantra, and how to heal. And make also a devotional praxis in terms of I'm not putting myself over it, I'm putting it to serve. And to have therefore then a healing possibility to keep this, and it's combined with, if this is very, very, very the essence of the orientation in shamanic would be also the wheel and north of the directions, combined with a color. The color, and if you go more in detail, would be combined with the element. With the element, it will be with a main organ. With a main organ, a main function, like just a tendency. And this would be then the main healing aspect, So I think this is very interesting, and it's only with sound, for example. The mantra is sound. It's the inner sound, and putting it out with drum and cymbal, for example, the space should be from inside first, but it would be more effective maybe also to have it a little bit also by heart, like par cœur in French. And this would be the training. And then you would be more filled in that you, and I don't think that, I think, I would put it like different. The orientation for us could be to be receptive in your inner experience, what is touching you. So, however, it happens to me very coincidentally that I find these kind of very interesting sources, or they're falling on my feet. And somehow also in my mind stream in dreaming without knowing anything before I ever touched Tibetan medicine, when I was in pilgrimage when I was 21, I was saying by a joke, when the others were really going on my nerve, I will book my flight to Tibet. But I had no connection to it, no. Not even knowing, the political thing, situation, I would know on a superficial. What I want to say with that is, just because I fall into this, or fall for it a little bit, or it really touches me, because when I found this, but it was really a coincidence, it was a very challenging time just being in Switzerland and at home. My mom was having an accident, and in COVID time I really felt a lot of pressure a little bit on my heart, feeling, how can I really felt somehow really I felt it so close, the situation, and this pressure, not pressure, also it was a little bit unstable. And at that moment, just really coincidentally, this was coming on my path. And in that moment, this was giving me so much stabilization, like it was touching me, supporting me. But I think for every one of us, we would have different paths. And Ayurveda, this where there's deep knowledge, maybe in this holistic tradition of knowing the path, but all tradition, although Ayurveda is the oldest one from the East traditions, would go very much to the elements, and to integrate like fire, water, earth, and space element, like in the Tibetan tradition, and to respect. Every one of us has a different pointation, a little bit more. If you're very passionate, you might have a little bit more fire. There's a lot of challenge. Also to, you're very emotional maybe as well, and maybe you could be with this hatred, or you could be very challenging for your surrounding, but with this really giving side of love and outward, you could be very supportive. So it's everything is all the same, and maybe we have to, on our path of getting more grown up, get more self-stabilized, that we have the phenomena within us, like you felt yesterday. That's right, but do I need to be driven by it? And I can be in a totally dissociated situation, which is normally, I really always like to be in the best grounded places because they are so much empowering. But if I'm how can I get more independent as well? That it's the most common sense was maybe just to be together for another 20 minutes or half an hour, and don't make it too much complicated, because otherwise everyone is getting totally crazy. Yeah. So being pragmatic. So it is having both sides. Do we need getting now so oversensitive? Like I know a person who might be also very much in yoga and very spiritual and very has no problem with money and don't need to work and yeah, it's great. And then being so much in this path, and that's beautiful. I would also love to have this much more time amount. And the interesting thing is, because of not being asked in daily life also just to work a little bit and take over, it seems like to make an appointment in spontaneous just around the corner of their house. Oh no, my digestion, I'm not sure. You know, so this is getting also, this is egoistic. So this is egoistic in terms of too much, we look too much on our own navel. So this self-oriented side, also under the labels of big perspective, can be also a little bit narrow-minded. And also, how can we have a holistic perspective without, and maybe also being very devotional to deep knowledge, and still we have our own path? This is the question, because I think it's very precious to have the deep knowledge from other things, but still we go in our own path. I might not be in the monastery there, and I'm born in Europe. So, so how can we get integrating the things which are touching our heart? And as a collective, I think it's very good that we are integrating the necessity that we have to heal also collective trauma. And I think this is the first moment in time where we can, where we have more words for that and more sensation and knowledge. So, and I think there are some already teachers who are very much into that, also do collective, just with presence wherever there are, to get the people together and to synchronize and share space. And in sharing space, holding space, healing. So this is where some of the guys who are very much in trauma therapy already do. Still, I have the feeling some integrate or things who are very close to our heart needs a lot of integrity. So this could be some who are very much in this polyvagal theory and trauma theory, doing also very, very big spread these days, also during COVID. It happens even more to do with Zoom and synchronize over New York and every kind of nationalities. And I think this can give a frame if someone wants to get in and needs a little bit also, how do you say, to stay with it. But maybe, or I think for my feeling, some very essential things. Maybe we have a very integral space with maybe just one person, or in the Salon self-healing praxis, like the energetic trauma therapy of Tibetan medicine, it would be the integrity time with yourself, your inner self, and that you do the healing with cleansing your the channels. And in Tibetan point of perspective, we would have 70,000 channels all over our body, and in our very fast world, it seems like how they look in, oh, they're more or less closed, therefore we will feel not connected. They are more or less closed because in other tradition it would call it nadi, like in Indian tradition, it's just other names. It doesn't really matter so much. Oh, I don't know that, but 70,000 channels in our very structured, very business, and I have to do and I have to be. I'm more or less closed, and therefore we don't have this resonating heart openness for each other, or overwhelmed, and maybe first we have to get reconnecting with the body. So therefore, how it is called in the former times, a healthy body, healthy mind. But first, sometimes before, if we have maybe not so nice thoughts in our mind, first it helps to work with the body, because the body needs a little bit being trained, and then the mind can be more stable. for some people, it's well, maybe the mind first, but most of the time it's that you, and then they do the choreography and everything. This is making the emotional body and the physical body happy. So joy is very important to bring in our life, and this is good. It's not to judge about what, yeah. It's but I think this is really good how the synchronicity is supporting each other. As we look at Taketina, there if someone is falling out of the rhythm, he gets orientation, but the other one who is still clapping the hand and they're being in the ground, and so we can empower each other because the other one can be once in the rhythm and then he's falling out of the rhythm. But this is a synonym for life. So I think what is maybe good if we do meditation from a deeper perspective means that we could let phenomena also a little bit be a phenomena and not be the phenomena which is too close to me. And if we could understand or if we are getting also any source which makes us a little bit self-educative with knowledge, I think this could be very supportive. And the other thing is this body. And for the Lung is like life energy, the La is the like vital energy. And just as a feeling, in traumatized situations, sometimes the La might become. In the shamanic perspective, it would mean that lost soul. I don't use too much these words, it could irritate the patient, but somehow stabilization and try to get this, and Lung might be just a flow, actually, to understand, as I was having this kind of teaching from Basen, for example, I understand it as a flow when we are really happy or in ecstasy or with joy in a concert or with the choreography, then it's a good flow. And this, and then when we can train that with ourselves to have a good flow with ourselves, being good self-connected, we can do also self-healing and cleansing the channel and still staying open without being overwhelmed. And this is the challenge in this life what we have, because otherwise there's so much input. So this being closed is just a reaction of a very overwhelming surroundings.
And when I see the different discourse inputs and so on, I think we make a break and coordinate a little bit.
It will be
that we just look at
Madagascar and Australia.
Yeah, now what I think what we heard from different moments and angles, it was, I think, the question of stabilization. So how we stabilize the situation when we are able to be open-minded, or that we are in this attention mute, that we can awareness, or when he's calling it, instead of concentration, attention, that you are open and present. Yesterday we spoke about this isolation rooms in psychiatric clinics. What is stabilizing? Can you give some design components, for example? Can you give, the design could be also a filter of lecture. So yesterday you had a filter of lecture of this situation, which helped you to see this as an interrelational moment, as a theater piece almost, or as a film scenario of relations, which for you started to be interesting, the place. The other one had another type of measurement. So what can be components that stabilize by not closing? And I think this is, we had this yesterday, Jacques said in the conception moment of a project, he avoids to do quickly architecture, and he tries to make the discourse complex, let it open, and then you have this moment of reduction I would say, to give a form, to shoot this moment from this angle, and then again you reopen because of this decision. The new complexity starts because you have one angle and one situation. You can open to other perspectives, and if you are just keep open all the time this complexity, you are almost coming to a entropic situation. Everything it's too much, and I think this in between closing and opening and closing and opening, it's precisely what's maybe also life. It's going further, and how can we and there are moments and I think it's intentionally that we are so much occupied that we close, and we can be manipulated. We are not autonomous individuals, and I think all what we are speaking about is to be the self-determined but open-minded individual, to create also different collective energy or collective flow, or whatever how we want to say collectiveness. And it's very interesting that our colleagues were
community.
Yeah.
In the space.
Or our colleagues spoke about ecologies. You can ecologien, so which means systems which function or not. It's interesting that these colleagues from the psychotic clinic said that it's an enormous growth of young people who come with schizophrenic symptoms, which come with not little depressive moments, who are really showing an incompatibility with the environment which our generation or whatever we have created to live in. And for me, this is if you see the whole society as a body, you really have to heal these environments, because our youngest generation, which normally should open-minded, has no other choice than to stay close. And often we do repair, but maintain this insane situation. I think it's very interesting if it's acupuncture or what is the format, or is it necessary to make a real operation and chirurgical moment to transform this situation. So for me, this is one of the questions which come out of this conversation, which is transversal from all the disciplinary angles we entered now. And I don't know, this is a question because we said we would like to make a workshop, because the interest to have creators in the room from different fields is to find forms of representation. I don't know if it's necessary or not. Let's throw it in the room, because this was one of the interests, to have not just a verbal exchange. I think we had also very attentional. So for me, it was a good flow. But would it be interesting to find form or forms? It's a question. Or what is your desire for the? We can eat, and we have an afternoon.
Okay.
In this constellation. Then we are going. But are there desires? That's why I'm asking.
Yeah, I was thinking before while we were talking about like the energies and the spices, and I don't know, I just thought like it would be fun also, or interesting, or I don't know, to create a tool that can measure tool that can measure the energy of a space, but like not, no, I should like say that. Like each of us is the tool that measure the energy of the space, and through, I don't know, like exactly. I mean, for me, it's really, I used to draw, so it's like, am I drawing really repetitive, and it's also the stimming way of like self. I knew this word last week because I did this like workshop how to use artificial intelligence to include diversity in public spaces, and it was all about neurodiversity and divergency. So there was a girl that she's autistic, and she taught us like what was stimming, and I realized that all we do is stimming. So by the way, so we could actually measure the energy of a place. I don't know if through, like for me, it's drawing, and it's really like this channel. I don't know, maybe it's just like.
But that's
something really
precisely,
personal.
that's incredible because I have imaginarios, but I'm unable to draw. I'm not, and I have, for example, there are other mediums I can find. Someone is, I don't know, doing Reiki and can find the translation is energetic flow or give it to the other. The other is healing, and the next one is making a film. I think this is precisely why we are so interested in everyone respond in its medium, and we try to, and I think your medium is different, but it's incredible for us to see, and you speak about synesthesia, forms of translation. The other has colors, the next one sounds, and it would be very interesting what are.
I'm very, I'm thinking at what we say before for the power of the place, or the things that Remy said yesterday, that it is not important the place, but it is when you are present. And for example, I begin my experience with Japan calligraphy, and without any fascination for, like you said before, it's not exactly casual, but I love the black and white and red, the sign in this direction. And also, if I am a designer, I lose my capacity to express myself with drawing or with other things. So I began in contact with this practice, and at the first I very scared because my sensei is Japanese, and it is not I don't know it is not the right word, but it is not a fanatic. So he don't want that we are all in silence or with the ancients, or no. Everyone is free to do what himself, and he follow every one of us in connection with every one of us. And I began to go into this practice, and I'm doing a parallel. I'm doing psychotherapy, and at the beginning, I left psychotherapy and go on with calligraphy because I think that calligraphy led me the time to go down my body with the direct connection with a therapeuts or someone. And I began a work on myself with myself, but in relation with the other space, rather person who are in the space. But it is really strange because we always do our workshop in a different place. that we found, and we are 3 days, usually 3 days, and we are there, we sleep there, we eat there, and we work there. There is some place very beautiful, very Japanese, like one near Genova, Campo Ligure. There is an old master of karate that built a space, a Japanese space, in which they do seminars, they do other stuff, and it is perfect. But we do also workshop in some horrible space because we don't have a lot of money, so we try to found place, hospital or a school or something like that. But if you can go away the real beautiful of the place, because it's real that the one Japanese is beautiful and other is not beautiful, for me and for the other, it is not important. Because the rooms in which we are working, it is something that is strange because you are not in really connection with the other, because everyone doing his work in a personal way. No? The only link is the sensei that pass from one to the other, but I can do my work at home with the other.
I think it is the feeling of being in a one direction.
Yeah.
And it's also a loving space of
Yeah.
empowerment.
Yeah.
And then you feel just interconnected
Yes.
with equanimity, and it makes us more whole
Yeah.
to stay on the path, because it's empowering that we know the others are also handling maybe difficulties, having on that path, but you all have decided, and I think this presence of just one person who is the leader by heart gives also a kind of healing ground, and also space, and only the heart can have this
But
openness.
it's the things that I say yesterday, that the calligraphy is to connect the pencil with the brush, with the heart. It's
an embodiment work.
it is really, really effective, because they definitely say that you put your soul on the paper with calligraphy, with a big calligraphy. And I was so shattered because it is something, a construction of religion or something, and I'm not Buddhist, I'm not interested in these things. But during the projects, I found some moments in which it's really me into the sign in the paper. So deep that sometimes I don't want to expose my calligraphy. And I remember one of the first time that I do it, because our sensei gave us a work every day, every time, every seminar, every workshop, you have to write something that is not important for the meaning. There is no connection with the meaning. But it's 1 or 2 or 3 ideograms that you have to write. And they work and they work and they work. And in the middle of one, it is the first things, the first time that I try to do without intention. Because the practice is that you learn, that you study, and then you have to forget and to use your body to do the sign. And it is a so deep sensation that I have to go out on the forest and I cry a lot. Then when I come back, at the end of the workshop, we have to expose our work and sensei speak about, because is difficult with Italian, so it is the only way to say something also technical then. I expose another, not this. And then after that all is finished, he come to me and say, why you don't expose the other? This is the best. This is you, not the one you are exposing. You don't scare to expose yourself. And this is so deep, so incredible that maybe a little time by time I can from the front to expose myself, but it's a longer, and I can do only if I am in this
safe room.
in this place, because there is every one of us have the same idea. And every time that someone comes because, oh, beautiful, I need something to put on my sofa, there is a real opposition to this. And this person doesn't come again. Because it is not obviously there is aesthetics, there is something technical, there is more beautiful, there is also some aesthetic, but it is not this. And we need to be together with someone who has the same energy and the same disponibility to show his soul.
I think that just coming back to the strict reasoning, I think what you have said is again this question: what are the elements, and is another person that stabilized us? How are we socialized? And we have lost, maybe, and
Then
you are
Also to empower each other.
yeah, to empower each other, and how do we disempower each other?
Yeah.
Because you touched it, and I think we heard it yesterday, that normally we have this value that what you are directly giving has value. So again, the question, the design question for me is, and maybe we have to see is how can we be stabilized, that we are open-minded individually and collectively. So, and what would be the proposal for the workshop this afternoon and for really, and was the initial part of all this workshops and so on, was to say we have one map, and this map tells something, and it's a dispositive to teach or to transmit.
We take the most boring element. It's really to say, how can we transmit something?
No, I think it's not boring, it's not
No, but we can make other more complex. We can make a website, or we can make elements more complex to do. But how can we reduce it in one panel, and this has to explain something?
And so.
Also die alten Schulkarten, ne? Das ist, ich weiß nicht, ob du das, these maps who have been in, just as a product for the times when they haven't had media and so on, you have this archive of maps in the schools. I don't know if you, in your time, maybe it was already gone, but if you have, I think we all know this Europe card, which had this more or less similar, and you have the cow, and then you see the cows like that, and you have, it was this positive of teaching, but the interesting thing was, and this is in all traditions the same thing, you put this on, and every teacher is starting to interpret and to make narrations. It's this positive, you have one image, and then the story starts. And it's a little bit the same thing under the baobab tree, when you
Just to
receive.
start something. Huh? That's what
Yes,
you cannot end and go too deep in the problem. You can make 2, 3 if we have, but I think it's more interesting, and we see it in the old one, is the co as a skeleton, and then this is the co in the approach of nourriture, of eating, and then it's the co. So you can look differently on the same thing. This makes 3 panels, but for one panel you enter in one approach, in one way to look. And now the point who I think it's very interesting is to say, if we work on this energy, on this orientation, perhaps, to say how can we explain what we know and what we don't know, or what's not, what's sensible and what is.
Should we work outside or inside?
That was my question. That was my question at the beginning.
Because the thing is to go into this experiencing of flow, also to empower each other as a group, we will experience even more holding a space of generosity for each other and not being in a space of neglecting and wanting to put each other down. So it's a holding space, I hope so, of generosity and open heart and open mind. So I think the possibility also to learn without knowing, just to learn because of, and just maybe
That's the point of the the God synopsis.
I think about this potentiality of synchronicity and being in that area where where you have chosen us to put us, like here. So to also switch that area to the natural surrounding. That's a question of.
I
what
think
will
it's
be
completely
interesting, Susanna, is like a little way on the exhibition.
Yeah.
To look if something like this can be in connection with the place whose this will be present.
In Renate, you mean?
No,
Yeah.
here downstairs, because you have to say this really because nobody knows that in January.
I think that answer, that is the sign of the whole in is one of the, because it is a circle. No,
Don't
okay.
say what we have to do. I think
No, but this is not ours. This is the tradition of.
No, this is your reference.
That's one reference.
And somebody has maybe the sea and the other.
One of the trauma therapists who makes a lot of healing work for, like synchronized, he's using this in his literature, like having this calibration for a healing process. It just
No, because it's interesting for me.
No, 1 second. Yes, it's really good.
Yeah,
and
no,
everyone
it's
has these proposals, and it's about this accommodation.
Okay.
And the question was just the rooms, and one room could be, for example, there. You could escape and do completely. I recommend really you have to go to one door there out, and then there's this little park there, which is really nice. But you also can come French, but it's nicer than this interior thing there, which is.
The only problem is if there is not some.
No,
okay.
because this is, I would say, disconnected.
No, I think will be because it's Pauline and Valéria qui sont studenti di Silvia, en français même, studenti francese et studenti français.
Mais on peut.
Non, mais si je peux dire, ce travail de traduction, now is a work of visual traduction. We know more or less, and I think it's interesting if not each of you go from the same point of starting, but how have we understand, how have we perceived this problematic who was discussed here yesterday or today.
Yeah.
And how can we start to give a representation who is not ideological representation, because this is really not ideological. What we really feel this experimental and this multi possibilities, and I will be very interested to start, because we don't have so many time, but to start to think what can be elements who can help. Why not you to explain? This was a little bit my idea yesterday, to say what could be for you decision to say how I take this methodology, how I take this methodology, this dialectic in between Occidental and not Occidental medicine. I don't like dialectic, I like trialectic or four.
Multi-perspective, but I
So
think
how
that's
can we
precisely what we heard. This was
go over and say perhaps there are also other possibilities as and this was just a little part what I think there are medicine who work on this cycle of life also, who the dialogue is with the vegetation, the dialogue is with, so this is typically not Tibetan, because also of the elements who are present in the attitudes, but what happens if you are inside of trees, you have another logic, I think, of this relation. And it was just say probably there are also other interesting way to look on our energy and our what happened also with what Africans from time to time say we have to change our conscience before we can go over. This kind of thing, I think, is interesting to not ignore it again, to say in the moment
it's not
a very
just about
strong
medicine, and that's, I think we had all these inputs,
Yes.
and now input is and now we do a physical input, and just again, this is a proposal. If you find visual representation, or if you just develop a concept of visual representation, can also, and you have different mediums.
you
Don't
can,
feel
not block it on-
obliged.
but
This is
the
a command.
decision will really in priority work on this planet. So this not means that we cannot make a film and all this.
And that's what might be my proposal when we go down. Now we pass by the exhibition. Where is jumping?
One little element to speak again about this panel is not a panel like this who is scotched on the wall. I remember the very good teacher make a speech, and you was confronted at this icon because the speech was long, and so and then one time come and he turns and you had another perspective of the same thing, and I think this is very important for non-savoir, for a relativization of what we give to see.
But like I was thinking I got it. It's like, was it like plexi, like?
No, we probably do it. It's a drawing.
Because no, exactly. I've seen the drawing.
We will look at that.
Okay.
We pass by the.
We print it we print it in two sides.
Okay.
And for me, what these panels are, c'est les œillets. I don't know. So occhielli are the magic part of this.
Okay. No, I do like maybe it's a glass thing that you can.
No, it's
it's paper.
it's paper and it's
it is.
I've seen the like I saw the drawings. So, yeah.
Because we need also some simple, economical, but also
I think a little bit, I see the budget we have will be very nice.
Your choice.
Everyone will produce.
We can.
Every school produce
Don't have it will be good.
Yeah, I think we're going to. I mean, la professoressa Fagnoli.
Hast du noch Sachen?
Sì,
Il mese prossimo vado a fare lezione al suo corso e dovremmo fare questa cosa.
Sì.
La cosa che vorrei capire meglio è sì, dovrei capire meglio, ma penso che ci sarà.
Ma questo volevo capire meglio.
Sulla presentazione c'è un'idea, ma non è certo.
Non è definitiva perché
È possibile che prendiamo gli elementi di presentazione di close.
i cosi, i distintivi.
You say so we can.
Quelli che delicato dove si da
Yeah, we do something like this.
That's
So
my
we
project
can
actually.
so element
Okay.
No, there are some woods also.
and also transport exhibition. Because I will.
It is
That's really one point we discussed just a little bit. I'm not sure if you vote for the fascist, we do the exhibition.
We have to do fascist for the season of the exhibition. We can do the collective
I
movement.
every time boycott countries who was fascist.
No, there is a possibility that if c'è la possibilità che se i fascisti vengono al governo, non è possibile lavorare.
Facciamo molto a parte di questo.
Abbiamo deciso ieri
Al
sera.
bordo dell'Italia o facciamo il Savoia.
Dico questo, ho convinto tutte le mie amiche argentine che hanno il passaporto italiano a votare.
Purtroppo non esiste.
No, però almeno.
No, il problema non è quello, il problema è il 30% dell'astensionismo.
No, vediamo, ma sì la situazione è pesante. Io non voglio.
No, ma nessuno di noi.
Beh, comunque, insomma, intanto pensiamo a questo che stiamo facendo in traduzione, che comunque mi sembra una terza via fondamentale alla resistenza e alla sopravvivenza di noi. E poi.
Ok, vado bene, poi magari fermiamo. Diciamo che oggi pomeriggio.
Sì, ma è importante che.
No, la registrazione.
Perhaps can also try to do something. Present on platform, no?
Wie lange, weil das ist geht nicht ganz auf mit unserem Time Planning. Du hast jetzt um 1 Telefonat, 10 Minuten, okay. Dann könnte man auch auf dem Weg schon zum Restaurant. Könnten wir dieses Restaurant wählen, was hier in der Nähe ist, oder findest du da gar nichts zu essen?
Nicht.
Da, wo wir den anderen Mittag gegessen haben,
Ja,
als wir uns getroffen haben.
Ja,
Das ist doch hier vorne der, ne? Weil das ist ja nur ein paar Schritte weit gegenüber das. Dann müssen wir zumindest nicht so Stunden.
Doch, Sie haben keine Kreditkarte.
Okay, da muss man vorher Geld von mir ausschreiben. Okay, und.
Also ich hatte mir beschwört, nicht mehr zu gehen, aber wenn ich kann.
Weil sie keine Kredite haben, ist doch eine Qualität. Okay, gehen wir da. Lass uns da treffen, aber das müssen wir nicht überlegen. Nachdenklich. Und dann vielleicht von 2 bis 15:30 sozusagen diese Workshop-Konstellation, über die wir ja beim Essen reden können. Und dann um 16 Uhr.
Vieni mangiare con noi?
No, vedo un'amica al volo.
Ja, ich würde
C'è questo dopo? Sì. Alle 2, alle 3.
Also,
Wenn sie geht nicht mit, aber kommt heute noch mit.
okay, I think the idea is now to make, then in any case we can make here at 3:30 something.
Okay, so it was like.
Would that be okay?
But
To
with
make-
the result.
To
With
make
the result.
to make a resume about some results, something. And because Sandra is now here for this workshop moment, and then she would. And we will record, and she will later
very
hear. So we have then again we would have 1 hour here.
Anche quelle che sono
I
a
can do it like
distanza
in a place that I think.
fa una rappresentazione su
Absolutely do.
questo idea nel panel.
Okay,
Possibili 2 ore.
No,
No, it's great. I'm really happy that we can.
I'm doing this, like, I lost
Diciamo questo alle 3.
Okay.
Come con il maestro mio, come con le messe, esposizione e correzione. Esattamente quella, e livello terrorizzato.
Posso fare
Enzo.